Shalom, Makim Shalom. First thing and foremost, we give all praises and glory and honor that's due to Yahweh. Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakadash. Double honors to the elders, the apostles of Great Millstone. Blessings and salutations to the whole elect. Yours in this gospel, brother, from the standard of Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, wherever you be. This is just a quick lesson titled False Prophets and Perverse Doctrines. That's springing about, like the Yahushai said in Matthew the 24th chapter, that in the last days many false prophets shall come, all right, spewing madness and basically calling themselves like the anointed, coming with perverse doctrines and doctrines of devils, man. That's why the scriptures say, mark them that speak contrary to the doctrine which you were taught, and mark them, which that word mark goes into the Greek word skopeo. Okay, now you got this new thing with this guy Ronald Dalton, which that's really not a new doctrine. Okay, the guy Ronald Dalton, that doctrine about, you know, Gentiles and Japhetic peoples being so-called white people, that's doctrine has been going around for some time, because you got to understand that throughout all the particular Israelite groups and individuals and Facebook Israelites, man, you have different dynamics and different types of research out there that these men gather to themselves, and they mix a lot of the Israelite doctrine with a lot of Christianity and Catholicism, man. Okay, like the so-called white man being Japhet. You can't say that, because if you go into the history of Alexander and Etruscans, okay, you understand how Alexander conquered the known world at that time, starting with what it was Alexander, Philip the Macedon, which was the father of Alexander the Great. He conquered pretty much Greek, then made his way towards the southern justice of Rome, Carthage, you know, and those different particular lands, which were basically Japhetic lands at the time, which were dark-skinned people, because Europe actually belonged to Japhetic peoples, you know. And Alexander the Great, hey, he's conquered the known world at that particular time, man. And when he died out this 12-year contract or voyage, so to speak, then his realm was split up into his 4 generals, okay, that pretty much spread out. And you had Seleucids, you had the Antiochus, which come out of the Seleucid dynasty. You had Ptolemy, which conquered parts of Egypt. You had Israelites in slavery there. But nonetheless, Esau, Edom assumed the identities of those particular lands and took on a name. Okay, because going back to the book of Genesis, you got to understand that Esau is a fugitive and a vagabond in the earth, man. Okay, so with that being said, man, you know, Japhetic peoples being white people, no, because Japhet doesn't have a significant role in end-time prophecy. Okay, just because it says Gog and Magog, and then which harbors the lands of Russia today, and you have so-called white people up there, you can't call them Japhetic peoples, because remember, Esau took over the world. Okay, and if you understand the dispersing of the Israelites and the scattering abroad of the different nations as well through Esau, then you will understand why that concept was out there. Like, he don't believe in the chariots being a so-called UFOs or whatever you want to call them, spaceships or UFOs, but we know them as vehicles of the chariots of Israel. Okay, because the Most High does have heavenly vehicles, which that's a big controversy out there, but we've seen them, you know. So yes, a lot of false doctrine out here, man. And us as defenders of the gospel, hey, you know, this is why we always doing response videos to particular videos, man, because men don't have understanding. Like, you got this new bug out, some novice, some young nigga, he come on my page running his mouth like he's on a level. Found out the nigga think that Gentiles can be saved, and he want to justify that by going into the strangers in the wilderness. Well, why did the Most High send the strangers into the wilderness with us? First of all, answer that question. And then the second question is, was they given salvation? Third question was, did they ever make it out of the wilderness? And what did the Most High tell us to do to the heathen that was strangers and accompanied with us throughout the wilderness, man? What did the Most High tell us to do to the heathen? Okay, because just because somebody accompanied us or was with us doesn't mean that they were given the covenant. Because remember, even though the heathen will come under the law, statutes, and commandments of the Most High, because the commandments will reign supreme over the planet Earth. Okay, according to Isaiah, the 2nd chapter, all the nations are going to keep the commandments of the Most High. But who was given salvation? Who was delivered from their enemies? Us. Okay, and none of the heathen made it out of the wilderness, man. Okay, so you got to be careful with that. And to prove that, if you go into Nehemiah, the 13th chapter, when the Israelites was basically keeping the customs of the heathen. They couldn't speak the Jews' language. They couldn't speak our language. They were speaking different languages because they intermingled and they married heathen women, and they kept upon their customs. And that's why when you go into Nehemiah, the 13th chapter, it stated that he smoked some of them and plucked off their hair and contended with them. Okay, because for one thing, it was a shameful thing for an Israelite to have some type of dealings with the other nation when it came to covenant practices or belief practices, man. Okay, we were not supposed to mingle our way with the heathen, and this is why it tells you in the book of Deuteronomy 28th chapter, it tells you that if we don't keep the commandments and we follow after the other gods of the heathens, the Most High will disperse us among the nations. So how the hell would they be saved when the Most High told us to stay away from them in the first place? Okay, understanding the history on why they went into the wilderness with us in the first place. And when you understand that history, then everything else makes sense, because you can't pull a precept from a particular book and try to equate it with that and say, well, that definition means that, when the Bible doesn't back that up. Okay, and what cuts that is Romans the 9th chapter, Revelation the 7th chapter. Okay, Jeremiah 30, when the Most High said he was going to save Jacob out of Jacob's trouble. He didn't say the heathen. So that's a Christian doctrine. And the Gentiles in the New Testament were Israelites, man. And you will understand that if you know the difference between Hellenist or Hellenistas and Hellen or Hellen. Okay, which in a sense you could say they mean the same thing, but mainly Hellen goes into actual Greek speaking heathens that actually spoke Greek. But you had Israelites that believed in the Greek custom. Okay, because when you go into First Maccabees, the first chapter, it tells you how we left the custom of the Most High and start conjoining ourselves to heathens, man. Okay, we took a covenant with the heathen because of the persecution that was brought forth through Antiochus and his counselors. You see, so when you read the Apocrypha and you go into the New Testament, at the Malachi you got the Apocrypha, which is in between the Testaments. And if you understand that Hellenization period from after from the time of the Maccabees all the way up until when Yahushua came on the scene, and when Paul was on the scene, you will understand why he went to those different lands, appearing to deal with heathens, because these were Israelites that was dispersed among the nation. So Paul never went to save natural speaking or natural Gentiles. He came to save Gentiles that were Israelites, man. And we got a billion breakdown on that. We have billions of millions of breakdowns on that, man. Constantly, that's a video coming out on who are the Gentiles versus the natural Gentiles. Brothers are doing videos on that like weekly, man. And through the Spirit, if I had downtime today at work, then I'll get into it. I'll do a little something more on it again, or re-upload a few videos that we've done on it, because we go into it pretty much every week at camp. We make mention of it, or we hint on it in a roundabout way, and we break out the precepts and we go into a little bit of history. But the key to understanding that is understanding between the testaments, between the Old Testament, the Apocrypha, and the New Testament. Okay, going into the Hellenization period, then you will understand why Paul went to those particular lands to wake up the scattered Gentiles, man, which were Israelites. And you can read about that in Isaiah 11:11. Okay, so you can't equate the strangers that went into the wilderness with us after we left Egypt as heathens that's going to get salvation, because by default the heathens, they're going to come under our law, statutes, and commandments, because that's the law of the land that reigns supreme, man. It doesn't mean they were given the covenant, but they have to keep the laws of the land, because if not, what laws are they going to keep? Theirs? No, because the Most High stated that all the gods of the nations are idols, but the Most High made the heavens. You see what I'm saying? So regardless if you got heathens that's sojourning with us, doesn't mean they're going to keep their customs. No, they're going to keep our customs, because if not, we're going to put them to death. And you see what happened in the wilderness, man. So for you guys to come out and say it wasn't any breakdowns done, it's been several breakdowns that's done on it, man. You guys are just too puffed up and filled with pride to admit that, man, that's not the case. You know, this guy, you know, he's saying all types of derogatory shit about us, about me. Like, you ain't even on the street speaking, to my knowledge, and it's cold outside. And I know you other camps, y'all don't go out when it's cold. So how are you men of the Lord? But we out there every week, week in and week out. We're out there every week, you know. And like I told the guy, I said, if he find us, and he find us. If you want to come deal, then come deal. But the Spirit of the Lord gonna confound you, man, because you too puffed up, you know, and you speaking shit, speaking evil of men you know not. you know, calling us pussies and all that other shit. But yet nobody has yet to prove that, you know. So, you know, put your money where your mouth is at, man. That's all I say. Because like I said, bro, we ain't on that carnal shit. But at the same time, we not playing with you fucking niggas out here either. We're not playing with you niggas out here. And that's all I'm gonna say to you Jakes, man. You know, because a lot of you guys, man, you getting beside yourself. You talking this shit like you on a level, and you niggas don't know shit, man. But anyway, I'm gonna end it there, giving all praises and glory and honor that's due to you. How about Shemi Hawashai? And with that, Shalom and the Baba Ball. Shalom.